Emergency alarms were still bleating like a goat with performance anxiety when Commander Callista, Cal Hardway, strolled into the Galactic Council chamber wearing tactical armor, a coffee-stained, "Hello, I'm terrifying" badge, and the expression of someone who hadn't slept since the last time Earth was legally considered sane. Which was never. The Council dais, a spiraling amphitheater of shrieking diplomats, bioluminescent outrage, and one delegate actively molting in fear, all swiveled to gawk as she clinked across the glowing floor with her thrift store coffee, mug labeled, "World's Okayest Ambassador." Cal gave a lazy two-finger salute to Chancellor Flubgut Vexmop, who was clutching his diplomatic inhaler like it owed him money, and muttered, "Sorry I'm late. Customs made me declare my sarcasm as a Class 3 weapon again." Someone from the Noodle Coil Dominion uncoiled too fast and face-planted into a xenoflower arrangement. "About the 847 Corflem Empire warships headed toward Earth," Vexmop wheezed, his jowls fluttering like a guilt-ridden jellyfish. "We require a tactical assessment, immediately." Cal sipped her drink, black coffee, no cream, just pure roasted spite, and replied, "Assessment? Yeah, they're gone. Like my last date. Loud, overcompensating, and atomized within seconds." The room went silent, apart from the gentle sobbing of an insectoid delegate trying to buzz. "What?" The actual hell in Morse code. "Gone?" sputtered Sparkle Chunks, fracturing slightly under the strain. "You removed them?" Cal tapped her datapad and flung the projection into the air like she was starting a Netflix binge. The room dimmed. 1423-17, 847. Corflem warships enter Earth's orbit in full formation, all drama and no insurance. 1423-18, sharp static, followed by the visual equivalent of a sneeze. 1424-04, ships are replaced by glittering debris confetti, lightly raining over the Pacific like metallic dandruff from God's divorce. Flubgut made a noise like a kazoo being drowned in soup. "What weapon did Earth deploy?" he gasped, claws twitching. Cal gave him a lazy shrug and answered, "We asked nicely. The molecules quit. Stressful work, being a warship. Told him to take the rest of eternity off." Half the council screamed, the other half tried to file ethics complaints against physics itself. Click-flap. The void breather wheezed so hard he folded into the fourth dimension for a second. Someone shouted, "That violates the laws of thermodynamics!" And Cal just smiled, tilted her cup and replied, "So does my espresso machine. Still works." Sis Lizard from the Noodle Coil Dominion tried to crawl under his own chair while muttering something about sacred treaties and unholy caffeine. "This is an act of war!" shrieked Emperor Clankrav's proxy unit, which promptly short-circuited from sheer existential dread. Cal turned toward the center of the room and leaned casually on the ceremonial Planet Mace podium, which had never been touched before because it was apparently sacred. Now it had a bootprint on it, and the faint smell of Java roast. "Look," she said calmly, "we're not asking for tribute, or obedience, or even an apology for the last 12 attempted invasions and that one cultural misunderstanding where someone launched a plague balloon at Nebraska. We just want everyone to take a breath, stay hydrated, and not piss us off again." Silence, then screaming, then 14 simultaneous declarations of emergency fruit basket diplomacy. Flubgut fainted onto a pile of outdated protocol scrolls, and Cal, sipping the last of her coffee, muttered to no one in particular, "They always fold after the first demonstration. Amateurs." Cal didn't even flinch when Sparkle Chunks let out a high-pitched crystal scream and shattered part of his own left clavicle in what was, presumably, an act of diplomatic grief. Somewhere in the upper rows, Hive Rep Wiglex buzzed himself into a migraine trying to draft a unified resolution before the next molecule quit its job. Meanwhile, Cal casually tapped her wrist display and, without ceremony, pulled up an archived file titled Operation Sleeping Giant. The lights dimmed again. Galaxy-wide feeds blinked into sync, and the council chamber went so quiet even the echo of panicked wheezing held its breath. The visual opened on a serene solar orbit above Earth. Mining bots drifted lazily around asteroids, a few casually disguised as cartoon characters for tax reasons. One asteroid suddenly split open like a piñata engineered by DARPA. Inside, a sleek, hexagonal array of softly humming, coffee-colored orbs, each labeled Department of Suggestion, Cal whispered. That's just the prologue. More footage rolled. 18,000 research platforms, allegedly studying space dust velocity, dental plaque propagation, and intergalactic fungus spore mating habits, all silently turned toward the Corflem fleet at once. A grid lit up across 4 solar systems. One platform, codenamed Laser Whiskers, shaped vaguely like a cat loaf with antennae, purred to life and winked a plasma beam through a comet. It disintegrated an entire cruiser labeled Friendly but Firm. In the background, Admiral Sarah. Boomberg's voice cut in with tactical clarity and zero emotional engagement. Begin atomic suggestion therapy. Politeness protocols active. Execute Clausewitz form. 72C, firm but non-aggressive unwar. Cal smirked, watching the delegates process the phrase non-aggressive unwar like it was a concussion grenade to the cerebrum. She let the room simmer before saying, technically, they weren't weapons. Technically, we didn't fire. Technically, they agreed to stop existing in their current form. You're welcome. Panic rippled outward. Vexmop began shedding. Legal amendments like an overcooked dumpling. Sir Lizzet nodded himself into an existential pretzel and had to be sedated with calming incense and a therapy slug. In the cringe Confederacy sector, an emergency glitter red level diplomacy warning flashed in 52 languages and one interpretive dance hologram. The Void Walkers immediately submitted a blanket apology for past, current, and probable future offenses, signed in black hole script and sealed with a gravity well. Even Emperor Clankrav's empire, militaristic, arrogant, mostly held together by duct tape and testosterone, sent a fruit basket containing space mangoes, a peace treaty, and an oddly poetic haiku about surrender. Cal blinked at the basket. When it beamed in via diplomatic tube, glanced at the attached note, for Calward, conqueror of reason, and muttered, okay, that's new. Never been offered a kingdom and organic jam before lunch. Back on Earth, Admiral Boomberg was already preparing the second round of deniable hardware just in case someone in the Council forgot how physics worked. The official Terran fleet, of course, remained on standby, 24 ships in parade formation, all shiny, slow, and deliberately underwhelming. Except for the fact that their hulls contained 300 unauthorized modifications, 6 experimental feline-named orbitals, and 1 suspiciously moon-shaped base with the internal designation, definitely not our problem. Cal tapped another display. Planetary scan requests were now pouring in. 213 member worlds suddenly wanted technical consultation with Earth's Defense Department, which was really just a heavily armed Google Drive run by interns and a ferret named Stabbers. The council chamber had devolved into a surreal auction of planetary compliance. Hive Rep Wigglex offered exclusive pollination rights. The Aquapod enclaves promised oceanfront embassies for Terran use only. Someone pledged their second son. And through it all, Cal simply leaned back in the chair of emergency moderation, which she now sat in despite the fact it was only ever used during literal apocalypses, and said, "This is why you don't poke the planet with jazz, sarcasm, and 36 quantum filing cabinets." She raised her mug again. Someone screamed. And the diplomatic emergency was officially upgraded to full-spectrum emotional collapse. By the time Cal sauntered back into the council chamber, 27 minutes late, covered in what appeared to be burnt glitter, and sipping from a new coffee mug that read, "Peace through superior confusion," the galactic diplomatic ecosystem had already collapsed into something resembling a therapy group for emotionally compromised warlords. Chancellor Vexmop, now visibly twitching every time Cal's boots clicked, attempted to call the meeting to order, but accidentally activated a self-contradicting protocol that looped for 12 minutes and accused him of impersonating himself. Sparkle Chunks had applied so much internal pressure that fragments of his torso were now classified as municipal hazards, and the delegate from the Fog Moo Collective had transcended physical form out of pure panic and was now just ambient. Humidity with voting rights. Cal dropped a thick, unmarked black binder on the central table with the ceremonial elegance of someone casually placing a tactical nuke on a yoga mat. "Proposal," she said. The binder's label shimmered into view. Galactic Peace and Security Initiative TM, Draft 0.0. This is the nice version. Nice. Murmurs erupted like popcorn in a microwave powered by dread. "Sign up," Cal continued, "and Earth guarantees your safety. Your planets stay unatomized. Your ships stay molecular. Your children grow up with their original gravity." She smiled politely. "Don't sign up and, well, the galaxy is unpredictable. Sometimes particles just get ambitious." Vexmop gulped, choked on his tongue, and tried to file for asylum in the nearest antimatter envelope. Are you threatening the Council with physics?" Clickflap managed between spasms of hyperventilation. "Threatening? No," Cal replied sweetly. "That would require intent. We're simply observing how peace seems to increase when Earth is mildly caffeinated and unbothered." She opened the binder and flipped to a section labeled Preemptive De-Escalation by Physics Disassembly. A bullet point list slid into View. 1. Diplomatic vaporization is never the first option. 2. Unless provoked by bureaucracy, betrayal, or brunch interruption. 3. Refunds not available post-dematerialization. Sparkle Chunks cracked audibly and had to be collected. In a bucket. Sissa Lizard tried to crawl backwards through time but got stuck halfway and began whimpering in reverse. The optional clause for friendly orbiting deterrence included complimentary orbital scans, mood-based laser alignment, and weekly "We're Still Watching You" holiday cards delivered via atmospheric etching. The Noodle Coil Dominion began, composing an apology song in 432 Hz, which Cal interrupted by handing out commemorative pens that doubled as non-consensual truth serum capsules. Emperor Clancrab's new emissary, a poorly disguised panic consultant named Glorm, tried to object but exploded into tears halfway through the phrase, "Sovereign Armada Autonomy." "Relax," Cal said, holding up a hand like she was ordering a sandwich. "This isn't conquest, it's peace, with conditions that you didn't write." Hive Rep Wigglex buzzed an entire treaty into existence using sheer, panic-fueled wing speed, which accidentally proposed Earth be declared the galaxy's neutral overlord with veto power over reality itself. A standing ovation broke out, mostly out of fear that not clapping fast enough would trigger spontaneous vaporization by kinetic diplomacy. Cal took another sip, nodded at the binder, and whispered, "It's not a threat. It's customer service, just sharper." The vote was over in 57 minutes, though technically it only took 6. Most of the delay was caused by several delegates attempting to bribe their own hands not to shake while signing. Vexmop's signature came out as a wavy approximation of his species' word for "please don't dissolve me," followed by a small heart drawn involuntarily by muscle spasms. Sparkle Chunks signed via fractured resonance pulse, which accidentally knocked out a chandelier and briefly summoned an extra-dimensional notary that winked at Cal and left without comment. Clickflap forgot how to hold a pen and simply exhaled his consent into a diplomatic sponge. As the Council's planetary stabilization alarms screamed from too many simultaneous Alliance reclassifications, Cal was already pulling up a holoslide, titled Phase 2, Rebranding Galactic Peace Through Controlled Submission. Admiral Boomberg's pre-recorded voice echoed through the chamber like an emotionless bedtime story for trigger-happy adults. "Congratulations on surviving the negotiation phase. Please ensure your planetary governments review Section 11B. Voluntary infrastructure donations for Earth's ongoing safety program. Remember, compliance is cheaper than regret." Outside, galactic stock markets detonated like overripe fruit. Currency values crashed, commodities imploded, and a rare mineral once considered priceless was now being traded for exclusive Earth coffee pods. 3 minor religions sprang up around the tactical debris clearing event, with doctrines based on molecular grace, quantum humility, and the sacred phrase, "Cal be with you." Someone on the gas giant Bloopnar legally married a photo of Earth's orbital platform, citing spiritual protection and tax deductions. In a quiet corner of the galaxy, Emperor Clankrav's homeworld erupted into something between a mass resignation and a surprise birthday party for surrender. Cal watched the chaos unfold from the council balcony, her boots propped on the railing, coffee in one hand, peace treaty datapad in the other, wearing a tactical poncho she'd acquired from a cringe Confederacy envoy who now bowed whenever she passed by. Vexmop approached, his usual twitchiness now replaced with the blank-eyed daze of a bureaucrat who had seen the other side and realized it ran on espresso and terror. "Ambassador," he began, voice hoarse, "some of the older empires. They're planning to resist in private. Nothing formal, but whispers of defiance, contingency planning, little things like not naming their moons after you." Cal nodded slowly. Not everyone gets the joke right away. Some folks need subtitles before they understand the plot twist is reality. She stood, stretched, cracked her neck with a sound that made 3 delegates flinch across the room, and typed something quietly into her wrist pad. Far above, in high orbit, over a previously neutral moon called Slumbra 9, one of Earth's defensive meteorites, blinked awake and began projecting an inspirational quote made of tactical starlight. "Peace is mandatory, so is the feedback survey." Galaxies away, Admiral Boomberg was already deploying test versions of Project Totally Not a Star-Eating Ray into systems that had historically filed late taxes. Back in the chamber, Essus Lizard began offering his species underground tunnels as hosting sites for friendship monitors, which Cal approved with a wink and a complimentary sticker that read, "Earth loves compliance." Even the Void Walkers, ancient beings of entropy and smug floatiness, publicly apologized for ignoring Earth's early radio transmissions, claiming they'd mistaken them for performance art and didn't want to interrupt what we thought was your extinction arc. Cal just smiled. The council had voted, the panic had spread, and the galaxy, whether it liked it, feared it, or was currently writing a hymn about it, was sliding neatly into Earth's orbit, politically, culturally, and if necessary, molecularly. The council adjourned beneath the soft hum of a peace treaty, so binding it had its own gravitational field. The once proud banners of galactic independence now hung beside freshly laminated Earth-issued pamphlets titled, "How to be Free Without," making us nervous. Cal descended the dais with the casual grace of someone who'd just accidentally installed a dictatorship and was wondering if she still had time for lunch. Behind her, Chancellor Vexmop attempted to thank her with a gift basket full of apology cheese and signed declarations of gratitude, but tripped over a ceremonial robe and was swiftly absorbed into a crowd of panicking diplomats seeking photo, ops, and protective proximity. Cal barely looked up from her datapad. Project Clapback Contingency was already humming along in the background, its targeting algorithms politely evaluating non-compliant sentiment patterns and assigning subtle orbital hugs to species still harboring illegal levels of self-respect. Earth's newest friendship monitoring stations were being welcomed across star systems with a mixture of desperation and well-catered ribbon-cutting ceremonies. Admiral Boomberg, now operating entirely from a subterranean bunker labeled "Definitely just a research facility," had installed a new control panel with only one button, labeled "Oops." General Snarkley of the Terran Compliance Board was halfway through dictating the first interstellar guide to acceptable misunderstandings, subtitle, or else, and had already approved chapter titles like "Oops isn't a defense," "We saw that," and "Your planet's atmosphere is not copyright-free." In the ruins of a Corflem propaganda station, now converted into Earth's Cultural Outreach Center, Local children were being taught how to make papier-mâché replicas of atomic suggestion nodes, fun and deterrent. Cal returned to her ship, the PS, "We're serious," tossed her now empty mug onto the console, and pulled up the latest galaxy-wide broadcast. Dozens of species had begun rewriting their planetary constitutions using clauses that started with, "according to Earth's vibe." The Void Walkers had renamed one of their moons, "Please Don't." And somewhere in the cringe confederacy, an elderly counselor was weeping joyfully into a pile of commemorative human diplomacy trading cards, muttering, "We misjudged them. We thought they were chaos gremlins, but they're organized chaos gremlins." Cal, lounging in the pilot's chair like a warlord with a coffee addiction and legally ambiguous ethics, smiled at the readout as another system opted into the Galactic Peace and Security Initiative, TM. "That's 97 systems, 7 empires, and 1 sentient nebula," she muttered. "Not bad for someone who once got kicked out of a war summit for quoting Sun Tzu in a karaoke bar." The final notification pinged. An ancient, isolationist machine race had just applied for membership under the subject line, "We would like not to be exploded." Cal powered down the main console, leaned back, and stared out the viewport at the mess of stars and soft-boiled civilizations now orbiting Earth's bureaucratic gravity well. "Accidentally conquering the galaxy by lunch?" she murmured. "Not bad, but next time I'm bringing donuts."